Joan de Beauvoir de Havilland, October 22, 1917 – December 15, 2013, known professionally as Joan Fontaine, was a British-American actress. Fontaine began her career on the stage in 1935 and signed a contract with RKO Pictures that same year. In 1941, she received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress for her role in Rebecca, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The following year, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Hitchcock's Suspicion, 1941, making Fontaine the only actor ever to win an Academy Award in a film directed by Hitchcock. Fontaine and her elder sister Olivia de Havilland are the only set of siblings to have won lead acting Academy Awards. During the 1940s to the 1990s, Fontaine continued her career in roles on the stage and in radio, television and film. She released her autobiography, No Bed of Roses, in 1978. After a career spanning over 50 years, Fontaine made her last on-screen appearance in 1994. Born in Japan to British parents, the sisters moved to California in 1919. Fontaine lived in Carmel Highlands, California, where she owned a home, Villa Fontana. It was there that she died of natural causes at the age of 96 in 2013. Early life. Joan de Havilland was born in Tokyo, Japan, to English parents. Her father, Walter Augustus de Havilland, August 31, 1872 – May 23, 1968, was educated at the University of Cambridge and served as an English professor at the Imperial University in Tokyo before becoming a patent attorney with a practice in Japan. Her mother, Lillian Augusta, née Roos, June 11, 1886 – February 20, 1975, was educated at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and became a stage actress who left her career after going to Tokyo with her husband. Her mother would return to work with the stage name Lillian Fontaine after her daughters achieved prominence in the 1940s. Joan's paternal cousin was Sir Geoffrey de Havilland, 1882–1965, an aircraft designer known for the de Havilland Mosquito, and founder of the aircraft company which bore his name. Her paternal grandfather, the Reverend Charles Richard de Havilland, was from a family from Guernsey, in the Channel Islands. De Havilland's parents married in 1914 and separated in 1919, when Lillian decided to end the marriage after discovering that her husband used the sexual services of geishas. The divorce was not finalized, however, until February 1925. Taking a physician's advice, Lillian de Havilland moved Joan, reportedly a sickly child who had developed anemia following a combined attack of the measles and a streptococcal infection, and her elder sister, Olivia, to the United States. The family settled in Saratoga, California, and Fontaine's health improved dramatically. She was educated at Los Gatos High School, and was soon taking diction lessons alongside her elder sister. When she was 16 years old, de Havilland returned to Japan to live with her father. There she attended the American School in Japan, graduating in 1935. Career. Fontaine made her stage debut in the West Coast production of Call It a Day, 1935, and was soon signed to an RKO contract. Her film debut was a small role in No More Ladies, also 1935, in which she was credited as Joan Burfield. Although Fontaine, on contract with RKO, had already made her screen appearance in No More Ladies, a series of other minor roles followed, in A Million to One and Quality Street, both 1937, opposite Katharine Hepburn. The studio considered her a rising star, and touted The Man Who Found Himself, also 1937, as her first starring role, placing a special screen introduction, billed as the new RKO screen personality after the end credit. She next appeared in a major role alongside Fred Astaire in his first RKO film without Ginger Rogers, A Damsel in Distress, 1937, but audiences were disappointed and the film flopped. She continued appearing in small parts in about a dozen films, including The Women, 1939, but failed to make a strong impression and her contract was not renewed when it expired in 1939. Fontaine's luck changed one night at a dinner party when she found herself seated next to producer David O. Selznick. She and Selznick began discussing the Daphne du Maurier novel Rebecca, and Selznick asked her to audition for the part of the unnamed heroine. She endured a grueling 6-month series of film tests, along with hundreds of other actresses, before securing the part sometime before her 22nd birthday. Rebecca, starring Laurence Olivier alongside Fontaine, marked the American debut of British director Alfred Hitchcock. In 1940, the film was released to glowing reviews, and Fontaine was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. Fontaine did not win that year. Ginger Rogers took home the award for Kitty Foyle, but she did win the following year for Best Actress in Suspicion, which co-starred Cary Grant and was also directed by Hitchcock. This was to be the only Academy Award-winning acting performance to have been directed by Hitchcock. During the 1940s, Fontaine excelled in romantic melodramas. Among her memorable films during this time were The Constant Nymph, 1943, for which she received her third Academy Award nomination, Jane Jane Eyre, 1943, Ivy, 1947, and Letter from an Unknown Woman, 1948. Her film successes slowed a little during the 1950s, and she also began appearing in television and on the stage. She won good reviews for her role on Broadway in 1954 as Laura in Tea and Sympathy, opposite Anthony Perkins. She also appeared in numerous radio shows during the 1940s for the Lux Radio Theatre. Later career. During the 1960s, Fontaine appeared in several stage productions, including Private Lives, Cactus Flower, and an Austrian production of The Lion in Winter. Her last theatrical film was The Witches, 1966, which she also co-produced. She continued appearing in film and television roles throughout the 1970s and 1980s, and was nominated for an Emmy Award for the soap opera Ryan's Hope in 1980. Fontaine's autobiography, No Bed of Roses, was published in 1978. Fontaine's last role for television was in the 1994 TV film Good King Wenceslas, after which she retired to her estate, Villa Fontana, in Carmel Highlands, California, where she would spend time in her gardens and with her dogs. For her contribution to the motion picture industry, Fontaine has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1645 Vine Street. She left her hand and footprints in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater on May 26, 1942. Personal life. Fontaine held dual citizenship. She was British by birthright. Both her parents were British, and became an American citizen in April 1943. Marriages and children. Fontaine was married and divorced 4 times. Her first marriage was to actor Brian Ahern. In 1939 in Del Monte, California, they divorced in April 1945. In May 1946, she married actor, producer William Dozier in Mexico City. They had a daughter, Deborah Leslie, in 1948 and separated in 1949. The following year, Fontaine filed for divorce, charging Dozier with desertion. Their divorce was finalized in January 1951. Fontaine's third marriage was to producer and writer Collier Young on November 12, 1952. They separated in May 1960, and Fontaine filed for divorce in November 1960. Their divorce was finalized in January 1961. Fontaine's fourth and final marriage was to Sports Illustrated golf editor Alfred Wright, Jr., on January 23, 1964 in Elkton, Maryland. They divorced in 1969. While in South America for a film festival in 1951, Fontaine met a 4-year-old Peruvian girl named Martita, and informally adopted her. Fontaine met Martita while visiting Incan ruins where Martita's father worked as a caretaker. Martita's parents allowed Fontaine to become Martita's legal guardian in order to give the child a better life. Fontaine promised Martita's parents she would send the girl back to Peru to visit when Martita was 16 years old. When Martita turned 16, Fontaine bought her a round-trip ticket to Peru, but Martita refused to go and opted to run away. Fontaine and Martita became estranged following the incident. While promoting her autobiography in 1978, Fontaine addressed the issue stating, "Until my adopted daughter goes back to see her parents, she's not welcome. I promised her parents. I do not forgive somebody who makes me break my word." Sibling rivalry. Fontaine and her sister, Olivia de Havilland, are the only set of siblings to have won lead acting Academy Awards. Olivia was the first to become an actress. When Fontaine tried to follow her lead, their mother, who allegedly favored Olivia, refused to let Joan use the family name. Subsequently, Fontaine had to invent a name, taking first Joan Burfield, and later Joan Fontaine. Biographer Charles Hyam records that the sisters had an uneasy relationship from early childhood. When Olivia would rip up the clothes Joan had to wear as hand-me-downs, forcing Joan to sew them back together. A large part of the friction between the sisters allegedly stemmed from Fontaine's belief that Olivia was their mother's favorite child. De Havilland and Fontaine were both nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1942. Fontaine won for her role in Alfred Hitchcock's Suspicion over de Havilland's performance in Hold Back the Dawn. Hyam states that Fontaine felt guilty about winning given her lack of obsessive career drive. Hyam has described the events of the awards ceremony, stating that as Fontaine stepped forward to collect her award, she pointedly rejected de Havilland's attempts at congratulating her and that de Havilland was both offended and embarrassed by her behavior. Fontaine, however, tells a different story in her autobiography, explaining that she was paralyzed with surprise when she won the Academy Award, and that de Havilland insisted she get up to accept it. Olivia took the situation very graciously. Fontaine wrote, "I was appalled that I'd won over my sister." Several years later, however, de Havilland apparently apparently remembered what she perceived as a slight and exacted her own revenge by brushing past Fontaine, who was waiting with her hand extended, because de Havilland allegedly took offense at a comment Fontaine had made about de Havilland's husband. Contrary to press reports, the sisters continued their relationship after the 1940s. After Fontaine's separation from her husband in 1952, de Havilland came to her apartment in New York often, and at least once spent Christmas together there. In 1961, they were photographed laughing together at a party for Marlene Dietrich in 1967. Joan also went to visit Olivia in Paris in 1969. The sisters reportedly did not completely stop speaking to each other until 1975, after their mother's funeral, to which Joan, who was out of the country, was not invited. Both sisters largely refused to comment publicly about their relationship. In a 1978 interview, however, Fontaine said of the sibling rivalry, "I married first, won the Oscar before Olivia did, and if I die first, she'll undoubtedly be livid because I beat her to it." The following year, in a 1979 interview, Fontaine claimed the reason she and her sister stopped speaking to each other was that de Havilland wanted their mother, who was suffering from cancer, to be treated surgically at the advanced age of 88, which Fontaine apparently did not think was a good idea. Fontaine claims that after their mother died, de Havilland did not bother to try to find where Fontaine could be reached. Fontaine was on tour in a play. Instead, de Havilland sent a telegram, which did not arrive until 2 weeks later at Fontaine's next stop. According to Fontaine, de Havilland did not invite her to a memorial service for their mother. De Havilland claims she informed Fontaine, but Fontaine brushed her off, claiming she was too busy to attend. Chaim records that Fontaine had an estranged relationship with her own daughters as well, possibly because she discovered that they were secretly maintaining a relationship with de Havilland. Death and legacy. On December 15, 2013, Fontaine died in her sleep of natural causes at the age of 96 in her Carmel Highlands home. Her longtime friend Noelle Butel said, "She had been fading in recent days and died peacefully." Her Academy Award for Best Actress in Suspicion was initially going to be sold at an animal rights auction. However, the Academy threatened to sue since it was not offered back to them for $1. After Fontaine's death, Olivia de Havilland released a statement saying she was shocked and saddened by the news. Fontaine was cremated. Filmography, Broadway credits, radio appearances, awards and nominations.